What was the physical appearance of the first human beings on Earth, specifically the appearance of Adam and Eve, according to the Bible? Since they are considered the ancestors of all mankind and its diverse ethnic races, questions arise about their skin color and physical characteristics. As parents of humanity, what would have been their physiognomy? I'm going to explore this topic with you, so I invite you to like, comment, and follow this content. What skin color did Adam and Eve have? Where did people like blacks, whites, Asians, indigenous groups, and Arabs come from? You've probably asked yourself these kinds of questions while reading the Bible and looking at how different people are across the world. For example, when you think about the people of Asia, like the Chinese, Japanese, or Koreans, you might start to wonder, what did Adam and Eve look like in a world filled with so many unique-looking people? These questions bring up a lot of ideas. Some people think Adam and Eve might have had dark skin. Others ask if they could have had features like Asian people, like the Chinese, Japanese, or Koreans. And some believe they might have had light skin. These are frequent questions that arise concerning the ethnic origins addressed by biblical creationism. After all, how does biblical creationism interpret the various ethnicities in a world full of them, from blacks to Asians, such as Chinese and indigenous peoples? The ethnic diversity is wide and varied. Moved by these doubts and by many comments from subscribers on the channel, I decided to create this video. I'm going to talk about what biblical creationism says about this topic, and I'll also include the thoughts of a scholar named Edato Lorenzo. He shares helpful ideas about where Adam and Eve came from, what their skin color might have been, and what happened soon after their children were born. To start, I want to clear up a common question that many people ask. How could just one couple, Adam and Eve, be the ancestors of black people, Asians, indigenous peoples, Middle Easterners, and all the other ethnic groups we see in the world today? The answer is that people who ask this often forget an important fact. All ethnic groups around the world come from the same basic genetic foundation. For example, if a man from Saudi Arabia marries a woman from Africa, their children will have features from both parents. The same thing happens if an African woman marries a man from Germany. Their children will show a mix of both family backgrounds. In response to this complex question about how Adam and Eve could be the ancestors of so many different ethnicities, the explanation is as follows. Adam and Eve were originally mixed-race people. Yes, you heard right. Adam and Eve, the progenitors of mankind, possessed a mixture of characteristics. This explains the diversity of skin colors we see in the world. Blacks, whites, and indigenous peoples, each with their own different shades. Some indigenous people have a more brownish skin tone, while others have a reddish hue, such as the native peoples of North America. What often goes unnoticed is the analysis of the biblical text. I always recommend that people read the scriptures, and if possible, look at the original Hebrew and Aramaic. Conducting research and establishing linguistic parallels in the context of Genesis is extremely important. So, let's explore that. The name Adam has a very interesting meaning. It means red earth or clay. This name is closely tied to what it means to be human. According to the Bible, Adam was made from the dust of the ground, and that dust gave him a reddish skin, a tone similar to the skin color of Native Americans, who were once called redskins. This skin tone, as explained by scholar Edato Lorenzo, was a little lighter than the tone of the indigenous peoples from that area. Adam and Eve, being the first humans, had skin that wasn't black and wasn't white. Instead, their color was reddish, much like the Native American people. It's important to understand that this part of the discussion is only about skin color. From this reddish tone, all the different skin colors in the world today could eventually develop, creating the wide variety of ethnic groups we see across the globe. It is noteworthy that by uniting two people of mestizo, mixed race, ancestry, it is possible to generate children with different characteristics. Adam and Eve, therefore, possessed the genetic makeup that allowed different ethnic appearances to manifest in their offspring, including black, white, indigenous, Middle Eastern, and so on. This means that the different ethnic groups we see today, like Asians, white Europeans, black Africans, and many others, can be fully understood if we believe that Adam and Eve were a mixed-race couple with a wide range of traits in their genes. On the other hand, people who follow the theory of evolution, and not the Holy Scriptures or biblical creation, say that the reason people have different skin colors is because of the climates they lived in. According to their view, people with lighter skin adapted to cold places, and people with darker skin adapted to hot places like Africa. But this idea doesn't really make sense, because we can find light-skinned people in hot places, like the Middle East, and dark-skinned people in cold areas. The truth is, the weather or climate doesn't affect a person's skin color or change their DNA. For example, if a light-skinned couple moves to Africa, their children will still be born with fair skin. Likewise, if an African couple settles in Germany, their children will not have the appearance of the locals, but rather African characteristics. The idea that a region's cold climate would cause people to be born with lighter skin tones and vice versa has no foundation. This perspective also applies to couples from the Middle East, such as Syrians, Arabs, or Jews. If they move to other regions, the tendency is for their children to keep the ethnic traits of their Semitic origin and not to adopt the appearance of the people of the new region. Following biblical interpretation, Adam and Eve were originally mixed race, which helps explain the ethnic diversity we see today. I would like to clarify unequivocally that the environment has no impact on a person's genetics, nor does it change their ethnicity. The environment cannot change a person with black skin into someone with white skin, or the other way around. In the same way, it cannot make an indigenous person start to look white or black. This is also true for people from Arab backgrounds. Even though the Middle East is just as hot as Africa, Arabs don't suddenly look African because of the heat. It's also important to know that Arabs, Persians, and Jews each have their own unique features, like arched noses and skin tones that are not black or white, but more of a yellowish color. It's true that the sun and hot weather can cause light-skinned people to get a tan, and this includes people from the Middle East. But what really matters is this: the children of people who get tanned by the sun will still be born with the features of their ethnic group. The environment cannot change a person's ethnic identity or make them look like they come from a different race. In other words, it is completely inconsistent to claim that climate can somehow influence an individual's genetics, as such a claim contradicts the tenets of biblical creationism. After all, God is the creator of all ethnicities and has endowed them with their distinctive characteristics. All existing ethnic groups in the world today were intrinsically present in Adam. In this way, all skin colors and varieties of people derive from Adam, encompassing the richness of human diversity. It's important to understand that weather can cause a person's skin to tan for a short time during their life. But even if someone's skin darkens from the sun, their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will be born with the skin color and features of their original ethnicity. The climate does not change that. Things like the shape of the nose, the color of the eyes, and the structure of the skull are not affected by the weather. The different ethnic groups we see in the world today come from the family lines of Noah, as we talked about in our video series, The Origins of Peoples According to the Bible. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll share the playlist link at the end of this video. For example, people like the Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Filipinos, and other groups from East Asia are all descendants of Togarma, who is described in the Bible as the grandson of Japheth. Togarma is believed to be the forefather of the Asian peoples who came after the Great Flood. Peoples with fair skin, red hair, blonde hair and blue eyes all originate from Japheth's lineage, with Japheth being their ancestor. Red-haired peoples descend from Gomer, while blonde-haired peoples, not only according to the Bible, but also, according to ancient Jewish traditions, are direct descendants of Ashkenaz, originating from the Scandinavian region. Peoples with black skin, such as Africans and South Indians, have their lineage linked to Cush, son of Ham and grandson of Noah. It's important to differentiate between Africans and Canaanites. Africans are directly descended from Ham, representing a less mixed lineage. People from the Middle East, such as Arabs, Syrians, Iraqis, and Jews, belong to the same ethnic group because they all come from Shem, who was Noah's oldest son. Shem is known as the father of the Semites, and he is the shared ancestor of these groups. That means Arabs, Jews, Syrians, Iraqis, Lebanese, and others from that region are all directly connected to Shem through their family line. To sum it up, the descendants of Noah were divided into three main groups: Hamites, Semites, and Japhethites. These three groups make up the different ethnicities in the world today. All of them trace their roots back to Noah, and before him to Adam and Eve. Even though there are those who challenge the idea that all ethnicities originate from a common couple and do not adhere to the belief in the Bible, the reality is evident. Consider countries like Brazil, which is undoubtedly an eloquent example of how all people derive from a common ancestry. In Brazil, there's a rich mixture of European, African, and Asian nations, including Eastern populations like Japanese and Chinese, as well as indigenous natives. This kind of diversity can also be clearly seen in many other countries around the world. God created Adam and Eve as a mix of traits for a special reason. He wanted a world full of different colors, cultures, and beauty. Every ethnic group, every nation has its own special traits that make it beautiful in its own way. There's a well-known saying that carries a deep truth: we are all brothers. This saying makes sense because after the flood, the forefathers of all people, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, were brothers. That means, even though we may look different and come from many cultures, we are all part of the same family, the human race. We are all brothers. I hope you've enjoyed this video. See you soon.